Hi everyone, Jay Stropes here again. We're continuing on our journey to get a winning record, 3-0 or 3-1 with each individual leader before release. Today we'll be playing IG-88 with a green base. Our first game here is against Krennic, so we share two aspect colors, green and black. I do make a few misplays throughout these three games. IG-88's ability allows you to tap him and attack with a unit in one action, and you get a +1 to your damage if you have more units out than your opponent. A few times I use that ability when we've got the same amount and forget to play a unit first, so we do miss out on, 2 or 3 damage across the course of these games. So playing a little suboptimally a few times, but doesn't make a huge difference across these games. Since we're playing against Krennic, things to look out for in that aspect pairing that we see right there would be green-black. We want to look out for Overwhelming Barrage, something we talk about a lot on this channel. It's a very, very good card in this set. Usually results in a one-sided board wipe. So late game, really don't want to see that from them. In blue-black, we're looking out for Academy Walkers. They can come down, stall out the game. They're Sentinel units, so we've got to attack into them or find a way to get rid of them. In this deck, we've got 2 Partisan Insurgents, 2 Cantina Braggarts, 2 Death Star Stormtroopers. On the high end, we opened Emperor Palpatine and 2 Ruthless Raiders for the sky or space. I'm going to keep taking out their units in this aspect pairing since we're going against black-green. Oftentimes, even in more aggressive decks, just because of the potential presence of an overwhelming barrage, I do like to keep taking out as many units as possible, especially if we can keep our units around. We'll see later in this when we go over the deck list at the end. We opened a Tarkin in this pool, and if we were playing a pre-release, in a pre-release pool, everyone has access to Luke and Vader. Vader is in black-red, so really this is kind of one of the only pools where I could see running IG-88. In the specific instance where you've got a lot of 1 and 2 drops who are not Imperial units, like the Cantina Braggarts and the Partisan Insurgents, because they do not trigger Vader's ability because he needs a black aspect card to have been played to activate, and Tarkin requires an Imperial to put experience on them. So in the rare case where you open up no low drop cards with black, and they're all just red aspect and they're not Imperials, which is actually kind of difficult to do because you'll probably open up some Death Star Stormtroopers, and if you have those, you should probably be running Tarkin or Vader anyway. This is one of the only instances where I think you could play IG-88. I do think Tarkin would be better in this pool, but we're just kind of pretending like we didn't open him just to test out IG-88. If we had not opened Tarkin, this would probably be what we would do. So just kind of ignoring the fact that we opened Tarkin at the end. Just going to keep swinging at the base. Right there, another misplay, or at least a technical error on my end. We didn't need to ambush out that Ruthless Raider. Its on-play ability deals 2 damage to the enemy base and 2 damage to an enemy unit. So there's really no reason to ambush it out unless you've got multiple units that you can hit and damage. When I was clicking through, did not really see a way to skip that trigger on here. In paper play, of course, a lot easier to not do that on accident. It's kind of a technical thing. Now here's why you would ambush out a Ruthless Raider, so that we can hit their tie. Plus the 2 damage, we can deal that to the Viper Probe Droid. Get rid of that. Really not going to be a close game at all. We can just keep swinging at the base. Even if they had some way to get rid of our Ruthless Raiders, they do have that leave the battlefield ability where they will also deal 2 damage. So even if they got rid of them, they'd take 4 damage just from that. Okay, the second game will be against Jyn Erso with a blue base. Jyn's ability knocks 1 off of the power of the opposing unit when they attack. So they can make us do 1 less damage. That ability from Jyn is actually one that is pretty good against our specific deck. Our Partisan Insurgents, our Cantina Braggarts, other cards have pretty low, or in the case of Cantina Braggart, have no power already. Their power comes through raid. So you can see right there, they can just straight attack our Partisan Insurgent that has 1 attack. But if they remove that with Jyn, it actually does 0 damage, even though it does have 4 health. So if they attack into those with Jyn's ability, they'll take absolutely no damage at all. It allows them to start to 2-for-1 us and do really good with attrition against our cards. Okay, so there's an example of attacking or using IG-88's ability when we didn't really need to. But it's not really like in this case it would matter that much. It's not like it uses an extra action. It's still 1 action, still an attack. It's just kind of silly. We are running 1 out of aspect takedown, just because we're a little short on removal, and paying 6 to knock off a unit with 5 or less health is still good. You can always run a unit into something and then play it if you have to, if it's got more than 5 health. And it also doesn't specify non-leader, so if you can get their leader down, if they've got a leader with a lot of health, takedown can work well too. Okay. A second misplay here with that 2 tubes and the IG-88 ability. Again, theoretically might not matter because still 1 action to attack. But in that case, we should have dropped IG-88 and attacked with 2 tubes after that, so that IG-88 could make use of 2 tubes' buff. And then we would have added a little bit more damage onto their base. We will resource P it there, just because we want to be dropping as many units as possible. Although ambushing out Palpatine can be back-breaking at the end of a game, especially if it's a surprise. Just going to keep swinging at the base, try and outrace them, even though they are ahead of us in that sense. I think we should be able to push some through because we can deal 6 with that Death Star Stormtrooper, 4 with that TIE Advanced. And even though they've got a lot of units, also, we should be able to be out damaging them with that raid ability. So we'll get them all the way down to 5. And they'll get us to 5 if they want to. But we're going to try and play a unit there, because if they opt to take the initiative, then that's fine with us. But if they want to keep swinging and get us low, then we'll be able to take the initiative, and we'll have more units out. Okay, so we're just going to finish up the game here. We got initiative. Really no way for them to do anything at all. Alright, so this last game will be against a Boba deck with a blue base. So a little similar to what we were, things to look out for with the Krennic deck, in the sense of Academy Walkers, Sentinel units, Shielded units, and blue-black and blue. Also on the low end, those Scout Bike Pursuers, like you see right there. And if they get Death Troopers paired with them, can be really good combination, since the Death Troopers can damage the Pursuers. Those Pursuers have grit, so all the damage that they take buffs them. So you kind of want to stack, like they did there, upgrades to give them more health. And cards like that will help them spit out a lot of damage over the course of the game. With Grit, it's not an on attack like it is with Raid, so it is a permanent power boost, which is why we're going to run our Shore Trooper into that Pursuer, because we don't want that Pursuer getting large and starting to hit us for 5 or 6 each turn. Especially in blue, where they could give it shields with the Starfighter. Like we saw in the first game, those cards on their Leaves the Battlefield can give shields, but also a Moment of Peace, really good low cost card in blue. Here we could have played that Volunteer Soldier and then used IG-88's ability, so we missed out on 1 damage that way on this turn. So we're going to end up playing that Volunteer Soldier anyway. Drawn to our takedown, but really no reason to hold on to it right now. Although we could play it next turn. Okay, so we're going to deploy IG-88 here so that we can attack with our Cantina Braggart and get rid of that cell block guard in one go. That will give us raid 3 on them to be able to deal 3 damage, take them out in one go. Otherwise, we would be swinging multiple times. They would get rid of multiple Braggarts. So that starship there is really good with their leader. It allows them to tap down one of our units, non-leader units, each time they attack with it. So basically kind of taps one down each turn, so they can't use it as long as Boba is out. Since we have keep fighting, we're just kind of deciding whether, I think we're trying to race them right now, right? But rather take initiative so that we can go first next turn. We do have enough to be able to play our Ruthless Raider, but again, most of our low drops are non-imperial. They're either Underworld, Fringe, or just blank stuff like that volunteer soldier is just a generic trooper. So we're going to resource that Veers. Really just kind of depends on what we draw. I'm going to knock out that Mining Guild tie. Mining Guild tie is actually a fine unit to run in sealed. It draws you into your bombs. Not really good in constructed or other formats, but being able to pay and draw, especially when you have nothing else to do, is a fair thing to do. Helps you draw, like I said, into your bombs, especially late game. So getting rid of that will keep their hand size down. Okay, they made a pretty big misplay on their end right there, which really kind of cost them the game. With that takedown, they should have hit our IG-88. Takedown does not specify leader unit or non-leader unit, so anything with 5 or less health. IG-88 has 4 health. Pretty squishy. One of the reasons he is, pretty hard to play, and so many other leaders are arguably better. Just because they have enough health, like Boba there. It's got 7 to kind of dodge a lot of removal. IG-88 gets hit with pretty much every removal event. And is also not that hard. If they just swing into him with something with 4 power, he's done for. Okay, so we took initiative. It barely scraped through there. Really should not have with that takedown. We would not have been able to get them to 4. They would have been up at 6 or 7. And even if we had taken initiative, would not have been able to deal enough. But since they had a pretty big misplay, we ended up winning that one. Okay, so we'll go through our sealed pool. I talked a little bit about this deck before. I really think, and 99% of the time, you are running another leader in these matches, just because if you open a Tarkin, you've probably opened enough black to also be playing this deck to run him instead. Or if you're playing pre-release, definitely Vader has got a better ability. The only case where I think you could make a case for IG-88 would be if you didn't open any low drops that have villainy, but most of the good cards across rarities and across even drop slots across the game have villainy to even be running this kind of a deck anyway. So I really don't think, if we imagine we did not open Tarkin, I think IG-88 would have been arguable here, but we opened Tarkin plus 2 Tarkin towns. In reality, I would be running that deck. But like I said, I'm trying to go through with each leader, and I do think if you didn't open basically any low drop Imperials and had a bunch of those braggarts, 2 tubes, partisan insurgents, other trooper units, I think you could make the case. Okay. All right, so going through here, we did open 2 Childsons. And I think as we keep going down, 2 Scout Bike Pursuers. So if this was a pre-release pool, I would maybe be leaning in the direction of a Vader deck with blue. Especially when we get down here to space. I believe we opened a System Patrolcraft, really good Sentinel unit to tie up the air. We also opened Inferno 4, which would help us draw into our Ruthless Raiders and our Emperor in blue-black. We did open 2 Infiltrator skills. I did end up putting them in the final deck in case we ran into units with Sentinel. Really good way to get around that. Opened a Precision Fire. We did have enough troopers to probably make use of that too. Another good way to get around Saboteur. Great sideboard card there. And that takedown too. Premium removal right there. There's our list.